Our gathering today is connected with Henoko. 14 hours ago, on April 25 morning on Okinawa time, just like this, 36 canoes and 8 protest boats were on the Sea of Ora Bay to protest the declaration on progress. They know that we are here in New York now to raise our voices to stand with them. So now we want to hear the voice from Okinawa, the voice of Fumiko Shimabukuro, a 93-year-old survivor of the Battle of Okinawa, from the recent newspaper interview. Grannies will read them, and so I just make a brief introduction of Fumiko-san. She was born in 1929 in Itoman, in the southern part of the main island of Okinawa. When she was 8 years old, her father died and she became a living babysitter. She fled the battlefield with her blind mother and 10-year-old brother during the Battle of Okinawa. After the war, she worked for a time as a maid at the U.S. Kadena Air Base, because there were no other jobs in Okinawa at that time, so most everybody has to find the jobs at the base. And Camp Schwab in Henoko. She lives in Henoko. She has been involved in the movement against the construction of the new U.S. military base at Henoko for more than 20 years and still protests in front of the Camp Schwab gate. So that's that's who she is. So,
please look at the two posters that the two young ladies are holding of an elderly person. This is the person who actually wrote this letter that we are reading today from Henoko. 70 years ago, during the Battle of Okinawa, naval bombardment was fierce. Shrapnel and bullets of machine guns came flying. There was nowhere for us to run. The Japanese soldiers took over the shelters we had evacuated, and we had no way to keep alive. We just walked without even knowing where we were going. My brother was 10 years old and my mother was blind, and we were hungry and thirsty, and my brother begged for a drink of water. So in the middle of the night I found a puddle, made a cup out of a straw leaf, and went back and forth to get him and my mother a drink. The next morning I looked at the puddle and saw dead bodies floating. I couldn't tell my brother and my mother about it until the day they died. I also saw headless bodies and dead bodies of a child whose stomach had been cut open by the shell fragment. All of the internal organs were exposed. One day the shelter was set on fire by a flamethrower. I couldn't breathe. It was painful. I jumped out and was surrounded by American soldiers, and they took their guns in their hands and put them down and put them in their hand again. It was very scary. I thought I would have rather died in the fire than be killed by the American soldiers. Even after 77 years, I still remember these scenes. I will never forget them. One of the Japanese soldiers who came into the shelter told a young mother, "Don't let your baby cry. American soldiers will come if your baby cries." Even though he said so, babies will cry. Then the Japanese soldier shoved the cloth into the baby's mouth. The Japanese military was not here to help Okinawa. The military doesn't protect the residents. Do you want to read? I have lived my life drinking muddy water of dead people's blood. I feel like being told, "You drank the muddy water of my blood and lived, so you must never allow war to happen again. It's your job to stop it." That is why I continue to sit in front of Camp Schwab gate, even if I am pulled away by riot police or injured. I wish I could protest and stop even one of the construction vehicles, but dozens of them go into the base. I'm so much in so much pain that my heart is ripped out of my chest. The number of people gathering in front of the gate is getting smaller and smaller. After more than 20 years of protests, the number of people who survived the war is also decreased by one by one. The only way to prevent a bloodbath like the one 77 years ago is for each and every one of the residents of Okinawa to stand up and stop the construction of the new base. We believe that once we return to the mainland, the bases would be gone. We expected that there would be no more bases if we joined Japan, but the war is still not over in Okinawa. U.S. military aircraft fly in the sky and on the ground. Unexploded ordnance is being disposed of almost every day. War is not something that comes with warning. The current Japanese politicians, including the Prime Minister, do not know the horrors of war because they have not experienced war. They are trying to build a base saying that China is going to attack us. Somehow they want to start a war. I would like to say to the politicians, if you want to go to war so badly, drink the bloody mud before you do it. Can we throw away our own lives by being misled by politicians who do not know anything about war? I would like young people to think about that. Okinawa is still a battlefield and the war is not over. Not only is it not over, but we can hear the footsteps of the next war, as symbolized by the construction of a new base here in Hanoko. How will Okinawa change? I believe that I cannot die before I see it through. And that is the word of an elderly Okinawa grandmother.